his curriculum plans were due for the next 6 weeks, and he had a lot of tests to grade. And so it's not just a day job. So we decided that, hey, I'll tell you what, we're going to be knocking on the doors of people who were in high school last year and didn't show up this year. And there were some in the education community. Thank goodness our largest school district was embracing those and people coming in from outside. They embraced the idea, provided some of the names in the list. We mobilized Rotary clubs and Kiwanis clubs and sororities and fraternities and faith-based groups and others. We started with 300 people, 8 high schools. We expanded it to every high school in our entire school district. And we added 24 school districts in the region, and now other places have copied it. In one school district alone, we brought 8,000 people back to school. And we mobilized a community to be as a resource for the school boards, to have civic leadership, to say, hey, you're not alone. And one additional benefit from the Reach Out to Dropout walks has been to educate community leadership of the situation that is faced in so many families and so many educators. We brought back kids who had to work. They have to work in order to make the apartment payment and the car payment. So by reaching out and bringing our dropouts back to school, one thing we're going to need to do in order to do that is we and you need to work together, not through mandates, but by sharing best practices and by using the leadership of the state as a resource for you in order to make sure that work and school are not incompatible, that somebody can have a job, remain in school. It may require some flexible hours at nights or on the weekends. It may require the power of the governor to tell the employers that they have a responsibility too in tracking the performance of these kids at school. Why doesn't Texas aspire to be the state, instead of trailing in the graduation rates and being far in the pack? Shouldn't our goal be to have the lowest dropout rate in the nation? And that's something that we need to plan to solve. And we must speak honestly about it. When 2.1 million graduated within 4 years from our high schools for the first 8 years that Rick Perry was governor, and there had been 3.2 million in the freshman classes, it calls out a 10% dropout rate. Thank God there's not a tox test for governors, okay? When it goes from 3.2 to 2.1, yes. And then we ought to, when Walmart can track 10 big screen TVs globally and know within hours if they're missing, we ought to have systems that are in place to know where our kids are and whether they're in schools. And that requires leadership at the top. And we will do that in this state. And it means having words that are consistent with action. On July 13, current governor addressed the dropout rate in a speech in El Paso, claimed that he had a new plan, that it would require proof that you were in school or charter school or homeschool or GED to get a driver's license if you were under 18. That was his new plan. Problem with the plan? That's been state law since 1989. And he's been responsible for administering the law for the last 9.5 years. Same day, the Texas Education Agency sent out, same day, July 13, sent out a letter to the superintendents that the extended hours or extended school year program was being eliminated entirely. A program that paid for summer school and after school programs to bring some kids up to grade level. So if you end social promotion, that's fine, but you need to do something in order to keep some of those kids in school. And that program wasn't a 5% cut, it was eliminated altogether. We need somebody whose words are consistent with the actions. The fourth point of our plan is we need to do a better job of giving you the tools to determine your curriculum, your accountability system, your calendar, and your revenues. And part of that is that we should remove some of the shackles on curriculum. And yes, I'm talking about giving you more discretion and judgment about how 4x4 is applied and administered so that we can do a better job in our state with technical and occupational education in order for people to have careers where they can be self-sufficient. Don't we need that in our state now? God made us with different talents and different gifts. God made us with different talents and gifts. And the job market requires different talents and different gifts. As mayor of this city, I had an auto mechanic repairing patrol cars that was making more money for good reason. He was a master mechanic, and he could turn around cars fast. And he made more money than a police sergeant with a master's degree. That's not unfair. That was a law of supply and demand. And something's wrong in the system where we're content to import welders from abroad or nurses from abroad rather than training Texans to do some of those jobs. And yes, nobody's horizon should be limited by their zip code. Everybody ought to have the opportunity that I did, that my parents did, the first in their family, to attend a 4-year college or go on to graduate school. But let's not pretend that you're only worthwhile and contributing member of society if you have a master's degree. If we had if everybody was a PhD in this state, we'd have a lot of unemployed PhDs. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? So we need to make sure not that you stereotype anybody, but you open doors of opportunity and allow local school districts to respond to the needs of the communities, employers, and the parents in providing the curriculum that those young people deserve. And finally, the 5th point, we need to make college education more affordable and more accessible. Too many people are playing by the rules and doing what's right and getting that high school diploma, and then find they go to local community college and it costs $160 just to pay for an algebra book. And they have seen tuitions for 4-year colleges skyrocketed by over 90% in the last 6 years. Now, you know we face a budget shortfall. Some are saying we'll deal with this the way we did in 2003 when the shortfall was a lot less. Well, if you're talking about doubling tuition again, I'll tell you this. A lot of middle-class families are going to be priced right out of college. Some already have been. I met them on the campaign trail. We got to make sure that the superintendents and educators have a partner in state government and higher education, to say that as we work and labor long and hard to open doors of opportunity, we're going to emphasize for those who are appropriate a college-bound culture. There ought to be a good college, a great college for those young people to go to, and nobody should be limited if they have the scholastics and commitment to get into that school. They shouldn't be prevented from going to school because of economic hardship. We shouldn't ration college education. Texas is exporting some of our best kids now to Louisiana, Mississippi, the University of Georgia, North Carolina, Oklahoma, because we've decided to ration higher education rather than to say that people, when they're educated, are an asset. I will be a governor who will explain to all in this state that we all benefit when people have more training, more skills, and more education, because we all know that people with those things make more money, spend more money, and invest more money, and it lifts all boats. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share my views. It will be even more of an honor if I'm selected to represent the people of this state, to work hand in hand with you, your superintendents, and educators to move education in this state forward. Thank you, and God bless.